The Assembly will hear a statement by His Excellency M. Saad-Eddine El Othmani, Prime Minister of the Kingdom of Morocco. May I request protocol to escort His Excellency. I have great pleasure in welcoming the Prime Minister of the Kingdom of Morocco, His Excellency M. Saad-Eddine El Othmani, and invite him to address the General Assembly.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim.
In the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful, Madam President, it is a pleasure for me, first of all, to congratulate the President of the 73rd session of the General Assembly, Ms. Maria Fernanda Espinosa Garces, upon her election, and I wish her every success in her noble mission. I also extend my congratulations over the exemplary work of the Secretary General, Antonio Guterres, in the area of reform. He has launched a vast reform process in the United Nations which aims to strengthen its role and to achieve its noble objectives. Morocco fully supports you in all of your initiatives, in particular in the area of peace building and peacekeeping, modernizing the working methods of the organization, and sustainable development. President, the world is facing unprecedented challenges, as well as deep-rooted transformation and rapid upheaval. This calls upon us to find new approaches, innovative approaches, to drive multilateralism forward. This multilateralism, which is facing a crisis of concept, and we are in the pursuit of consensus so as to address global problems and to make international organizations more effective and make them able to adapt to a diverse range of challenges. When we consider the reality of the world today, it is not a luxury that we indulge in. Rather, we must think and consider realistically and objectively the culmination of the efforts of the United Nations so as to allow it to achieve the goals that the organization has set itself. In this context, Morocco, through the vision of His Majesty the King Mohammed VI, feels that we must grant particular importance to the triumvirate of security, development, and human rights. The year 2018 must allow us to further pursue the 2030 agenda that we adopted, and this year we must recall two historic moments that have allowed us to move forward in our collective undertaking to strengthen the identity of our organization through our universal human values and through international peace and security. The first moment of history that I would like to touch upon is what took place 40 years ago when the United Nations deployed its forced peacekeeping mission. We must also recall this was 70 years ago that the United Nations deployed its first peacekeeping mission, and so in doing so we must recall the fundamental role that the organization plays in peacekeeping at the international and regional levels and in terms of the respect for the sovereignty of states, their territorial integrity and their independence. During the 67th session of the General Assembly, His Majesty the King Mohammed VI spoke before the Assembly and said that achieving international peace and security was at the heart of the United Nations mission, with the deployment of tens of thousands of blue helmets around the world so as to protect civilians and create a good basis for political dialogue. This is the greatest proof of the fundamental role that our organization plays in this area. His Majesty, during a message addressed to the United Nations Secretary General at the beginning of this month, supported the initiative to organize a high-level meeting during this very session on the subject of developing peacekeeping mechanisms. Morocco has fully supported the final communiqué of the meeting. The second moment in history that I would like to refer to is the adoption of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, adopted on the 10th of December 1948. We are celebrating the 70th anniversary of that declaration, which laid the first foundation stone for human rights mechanisms. This allowed us to adopt a number of conventions on civil, political, economic, social, cultural rights, as well as a large number of relevant instruments. Morocco is firmly committed to human rights. We urge states to work to ensure that the noble objectives of human rights are an element that brings peoples together in respect for diversity and plurality. We must establish an objective vision of human rights without any politicization, because politicization undermines our objectives. Mr. President, for the Kingdom of Morocco, our participation in various multilateral mechanisms is a priority when it comes to our foreign policy. Multilateral work must be based on balance, realism, effectiveness, openness, and ambition. More than ever, we need a consensus-based approach, and we must be more humane and show greater solidarity to overcome our shared challenges, in particular when it comes to climate change, the fight against terrorism, and migration. It is in this spirit that His Majesty mobilized the various countries of the world to limit the impact of climate change. That is why COP22, which took place in Marrakesh, was a historic event during which we were sure to implement the commitments taken during the Paris Climate Summit. In the same vein, Morocco has contributed to international cooperation in the fight against terrorism and the fight against transnational security challenges and threats. My country is recognized among countries in the world in this regard, and we have put in place various international and regional approaches to combat this phenomenon. We have mobilized international efforts to combat terrorism, in particular through our shared presidency alongside the Netherlands of the International Forum for the Fight Against Terrorism. On the subject of migration, His Majesty the King Mohammed VI, thanks to his experience in migration policy, presented the African Agenda for Migration, which was adopted at the 31st Summit of the African Union in Addis Ababa in January 2018. At the international level, Morocco is the co-chair with Germany of the Global Migration Forum. This has made it possible through these international and African experiences to strengthen the Global Compact on Migration. In the last few months, international negotiations have allowed us to achieve a global compact for safe, orderly and regular migration. This compact will be adopted at the high-level meeting which will take place in Marrakesh in the Kingdom of Morocco on the 10th and 11th of December 2018. This meeting will be a historic moment when it comes to our treatment of migration. We are working to establish a new global order based on dialogue, consultation, and cooperation. We must consider migration as a necessary human trend that is needed for the development of societies and for bringing civilizations closer together. You are, of course, all very welcome in Marrakesh. On the basis of our African identity, in which we are firmly anchored, and also on the basis of our historic relations with the various African countries, we have made the African continent one of the priorities of our foreign policy. This is in the framework of a strategic vision of which we are proud. We are proud of our relations with our African brothers. The King Mohammed VI works to ensure that African solutions are always proposed for African problems that apply to the continent. And we call for support for all African and international efforts aiming to address problems of development and good governance. We support all initiatives which aim to achieve prosperity and stability on the African continent, and that is why we are proud to co-chair with Senegal the Sustainability, Security and Stability Initiative, the 3S initiative. This initiative aims to combat desertification in Africa so as to rehabilitate and reclaim our lands and to allow for the reintegration of our inhabitants, our citizens in these regions. And I would like to take this opportunity to invite you to participate in the various areas of work that pertain to this very important issue for Africa and its development. Morocco is an active member of the African Peace and Security Council and tries to mobilize every effort to preserve peace, security and stability on the African continent. This also makes it possible to support the UN's efforts in this area. Mr. President, the dangers that the region of the Middle East faces require a just and lasting solution for the Palestinian question, which is at the heart of the conflict in the region. That is why we call upon the United Nations to double down its efforts so as to relaunch the political process in the region on the basis of international law and bilateral efforts, so that the Palestinian people can enjoy their legitimate rights, in particular the creation of an independent state across the entire Palestinian national territory with Jerusalem as its capital. We are aware of the importance of Jerusalem for the three monotheistic religions and their followers. That is why the King of Morocco presides over the Al-Quds Committee. This committee refuses any harm being done to the status, the historic, legal and political status of the city of Jerusalem. I repeat, we refuse any impingement upon the historic, legal and political status of the city. We must fight against any measure that goes in this direction. Another problem for the region of North Africa and the Middle East is the interference of some regional powers in the internal affairs of some Arab countries. This undermines our security, our stability, our sovereignty, and our territorial integrity at the national level. The Kingdom of Morocco firmly denounces these aggressive attitudes, and we call upon these powers to halt all measures that run counter to international law and which run counter to the principles of good neighbourliness. We call upon you to take positive steps based on courage and sincerity to make this region a safe one and a stable one. Mr. President, regional conflicts in the Western Sahara, related to the Western Sahara, is a source of instability for our region. This is an obstacle to the integration of the Maghreb, and that is why it is essential to work seriously to find a lasting political solution. Thanks to the efforts of the various countries, in particular our neighbour Algeria, Algeria must take its responsibilities, its historic and political responsibilities, seriously. It is Algeria that created and bolstered this crisis. The Kingdom of Morocco respects the various resolutions of the Security Council on the subject of this conflict. It is the Security Council alone which has the right to manage this political problem. We need a realistic, consensus-based state of mind to achieve a political solution that is realistic, practical and lasting, in particular under Resolution 2414 of the Security Council. Morocco supports the efforts of the United Nations Secretary General and his special representative to achieve a political solution to this man-made crisis. It is on this basis that King Mohammed VI spoke on the 20th of August to stress the positive role that Morocco plays to support the dynamic that has been created by the United Nations Secretary General and his special representative on the basis of the commitments that we made during the last Green March. We will continue our work on the basis of those principles. In parallel, Morocco continues to make every effort to develop our different regions in the south. We are advocating a decentralized system which allows the residents of the Moroccan Sahara to manage their own affairs in a democratic framework and a framework of stability and sustainable development. It is with a great deal of regret that we consider the disastrous situation in which our brothers are living in Tindouf camp. We call upon the international community to ask Algeria to take up its political, legal and human responsibilities, since Algeria is the host country of these refugees. It is vital that these refugees be subject to a census on the basis of a Security Council resolution in response to the various appeals made by the Secretary General and various UN agencies. We firmly believe that the unrest in our world today requires us to show solidarity and to work hand in hand, regardless of our interests. We must continue to undertake multilateral efforts to put an end to the status quo in various crises so as to make progress towards mutual understanding. This should allow everyone to move forward. We need multilateralism to overcome the various challenges that the international community faces. The Kingdom of Morocco will continue to be an active member of the United Nations. We will continue to be responsible and active within the international community. And we will always believe in the principles of this organization in which we have confidence. And that is thanks to multilateral work. Thank you, and may the peace of God be upon you.
Assembly, I wish to thank the Prime Minister of the Kingdom of Morocco for the statement just made, and I request protocol to escort His Excellency. We have heard the last speaker in the general debate for this meeting. We will continue the general debate tomorrow at 9 a.m. in this hall. The meeting is adjourned.